Power 98.7 Podcasts.
We now go into our Trailblazer conversation, and our Trailblazer joins us in our studios here at the JSC. Her name is Fundi Sithebe. She joined Airports Company South Africa AXA in 2015 as the Chief of Staff, reporting to the CEO, and she, on the 1st of December 2017, was then appointed Chief Operating Officer. She brings to bear on the role a wealth of experience, including roles at Deloitte Consulting First Round and F&B Africa, and also played a significant role as a protocol lead during the 2010 FIFA World Cup. She now joins us in the studio as our Trailblazer. Sis Fundi Kunjani?
How are you, Ayabong?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us. Before we even get to all of the high-flying roles and the charged and highly pressured environments that you've worked in, let's maybe take a step back. Growing up, was this the corporate landscape and the work that you do always something that you envisaged that you would do, or did you have maybe other loftier or even more carefree dreams?
So yes and no. I always say that I don't think many of us that are in aviation today woke up or grew up thinking that we're going to be in aviation. Sure. It was never deliberate, and we almost find ourselves by mistake or, by some sort of good luck. I actually, when I was 8, I was fortunate enough to get onto an airplane with my aunt to go to Durban. And on that flight, my very first flight, I realized I wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
And then I kind of wanted to be an astronaut, and then I wanted to be in the Air Force, and I wanted to come back into aviation. And I did get my pilot's license in 2002. So since then, aviation has just been
so
in my blood.
You're not the by in the aviation. You didn't go first to accounting school, then maybe to an MBA, and then by default into aviation.
Well, I actually had to do it. So it was by the by, but a deliberate by the by, if that makes sense. Okay. So when I started at Deloitte Consulting, that's when I realized that the passion is just too great within me. So as I was doing my consulting gigs in the morning, I'd go up to Lanseria, get up on a flight at about 5, 6 in the morning just to get the hours for my pilot's license. But then, funny enough, I also then realized when I got my private pilot's license that this is not the career in terms of being a commercial pilot that I want to do on a daily basis. But I knew that I had to stay within aviation. And here I am. So deliberate by mistake, both in parallel.
Let's go back because many of us might not be aware of what AXA actually does. And I think earlier on this year I found out that actually not all airports in the country are operated by AXA. I've bumped into an airport in Mthatha, which is operated by the local provincial government in that case. But just maybe explain to all of us in lay people's language, what is it that AXA actually does?
So AXA operates a network of 9 airports. So the three big international airports being Ora Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, Cape Town International Airport, and King Shaka International Airport, and then 6 other what we call regional airports. So that's PE, East London, George, Uppington, Kimberley, and Bromfisher and Bloemfontein. Incidentally, we also do assist Mthatha, so it's not an AXA-owned airport. However, we are providing consulting services to Mthatha as well as Vanderbilt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. Now, one would think that there's so many moving parts in that kind of environment. I mean, there's the built infrastructure itself. There is all the service providers that are working, be it the guys working in bag collection, the caterers, and then the airlines themselves. When you are in an operational role like the one that you find yourself in, what does a typical day look like? And more importantly, just maybe map out for us what all these moving parts look like and how you bring them all in a very coherent and a coordinated fashion to seamlessly work.
And that's the trick. It's got to be seamless. So as I said, if you run a network of 9 airports, to a certain extent, you've got to make sure that within that network, our passengers get the same experience, get the same feel, as well as the airlines, as well as any other general stakeholders. So simply put, I mean, if I had to just use you in layman's terms as a traveling passenger, you book your ticket, you then get to an airport, you park, right? Or you come with public transport. So that infrastructure we provide. You then go through a check-in desk. That infrastructure we provide, but that is the airline that is responsible for that. You then go through to your security point where you are checked, and that's incidentally the only time where you'll come across AXA employees, because everybody else in the value chain is not an AXA employee. However, that is the greater stakeholder coordination that AXA is responsible for. You then go through, you've checked in your luggage, or you're either taking in your luggage as check-in luggage, or you've checked in your luggage, taking luggage to as carry-on,
Yes.
or luggage that has been checked in. So we then make sure that it's properly screened to ensure that there's nothing that's harmless, that's dangerous, etc. So that responsibility of security lies solely within AXA. You then get on an aircraft, and physically, if it's connected to a bridge, for example, you get through that bridge. That's an AXA infrastructure,
Sure.
and then you finally get into the aircraft, and that is now then the domain of the airline itself. So if you're flying with airline XYZ, that you're now then in their hands. However, the airline then pushes back into a taxiway,
Yes.
onto a runway. That is
is you.
AXA infrastructure.
You must have had a headache yesterday, because I do know that in Cape Town there was a baggage issue. And I was at the airport yesterday, and I don't know how many angry people I saw waiting either for their fragile luggage or all manner of luggage, only to be told, well, sorry, Shega Kapa. What happens on days like that?
And so it happens, right? I take a headache tablet, and so it happens. I was at a friend's birthday lunch, but as this was
when
planning
this was,
out, as it was unfolding, so initially, obviously, the most important thing is we really pride ourselves on on-time performance.
Sure.
So the biggest thing is we need to make sure that the airlines get their pushback and they start at the right time that they're supposed to. But that also means that the passengers must be on the aircraft in time as well as their luggage. So there's a number of moving parts to it. So like you say, we're able to a certain extent, get as much of the aircraft off the ground as had been planned. However, it did mean, yes, and I'm admitting it on air, we had about 600 pieces of luggage that didn't make it onto aircraft. But yeah, so today one of the things that I had to do was speak to the various teams. So within my portfolio, I've got the executive that is responsible for airport operations, somebody else that's responsible for infrastructure and asset management, somebody else that's responsible for what we call technical services solutions, which is like consulting, and now I've also got commercial reporting into me as well as security. So one of the things that consumed me most of today was, what went wrong? Was it a power failure? What was it in the background? And I guess the most important thing is we are 2 months into the festive season. However, our peak season starts now in October. That's when you start to see the traffic numbers increasing. So the next couple of days is to say, okay, what have we learned? How do we make sure that we mitigate that a risk like this doesn't happen? Because the knock-on effects as time goes on into the festive season are just too great.
I hope you're going to send some goodie bags to some of those customers.
This is my on-air apology.
Okay. The other issue I wanted to find out is that many people forget that AXA is actually a state-owned entity. And the reason is because, that role ends up being foreshadowed by the other notorious state-owned entity, which is an airline that you oversee every single day. Just talk to us about some of the challenges around performance of the airlines themselves and what impact that has on the operations of AXA. Because from time to time, we've heard of some sort of being grounded. We've also heard of other airlines having all manner of delays that become a recurring feature. And then, of course, some of the financial challenges of our own national carrier, which all of us understand.
So, Ayabonga, I guess the first thing is, as an SOE, we really pride ourselves on performance. I think over our existence of 25 years, there's only been 1 year where we made a loss in terms of profits. All 24 years, we've been profitable. We are one of the SOEs that actually doesn't go into the deficit or ask for any government bailouts. So we're very proud of that, which speaks to the fact that operationally, we are really on top of our game, and it is very critical. So you speak about, some licenses that have been removed, etc., because people, airlines haven't quite kept up with the bill. So from a risk perspective, financially, we've really got to be making sure that we're keeping our eye on the ball, but also equally, just in terms of operationally, we run a very tight ship. There's something called on-time performance that's measured by OAG, and we've come out tops all the time. So we have to make sure that cohesively with the airlines, cohesively with all the relative stakeholders, whether it be baggage handlers, the caterers that you've been talking about, that is all coordinated, and it is like a properly functioning machine. And so we've got various aspects. We've got what's called an AMC, that's at the big airports. It's an airports management center. We've got big screens. It's amazing when you walk in there. We're literally monitoring every part of this moving piece. So we're on top of that. Behind the scenes, we're making sure that debts are being paid, that we're collecting passenger taxes, that we're collecting the landing fees, etc. So it's a multi-skilled and multi-scaled operation that we run, and it's incredible that we have to keep an eye on the ball in each and every single one, because potentially if you drop a ball on one, it could have an impact on the entire value chain, and that's what we don't want.
And when you're not running that multi-dimensional operation, what do you do for fun?
I run that multi-dimensional organization. No, I'm joking.
It sounds like that advert. Grandma, what did you do for fun? We baked. It sounds like that. No, but genuinely, what do you do for fun?
So, I think we mentioned it earlier on to say that I was fortunate enough to get into an aircraft when I was 8 years old.
Sure.
But we have lots of our youth that don't even know what an airport looks like, don't even know what an aircraft looks like, don't even know that they can be having careers within the aviation space. So one of my closest pet projects is I'm a member of what's called the Women in Aviation on the board.
Oh, nice.
And we also run what's called the Girl Fly program in Africa. And that is once a year we run a camp specifically aimed at youth and specifically aimed at girl learners, just to make sure that by the time they get to the age of when they choose their subjects, they're very aware of what potential careers are there in aviation, to then enable them to choose the right subjects and preparing them for that. So we have camps once a year. We take the girls for about 5 days, and we really just impart a lot of our knowledge, having gone through the years. It's our responsibility to pass this knowledge back. We have no other choice.
Awesome stuff. You are indeed on this Monday, our Trailblazers is Fundi. Thank you so much for making time out to speak to us this evening. Fundi Sithebe, the Chief Operating Officer at the Airports Company of South Africa.
Power 98.7. Now we're talking.